Cześć, witam, dzień dobry, Mike in Poland. Today I want to discuss 5 cultural things you must do if you're a Polish person or a foreigner living in Poland. A must-do in Poland, especially to show that we aren't snobby Americans, is we must participate in things and games and activities that Polish people actually provide for us in terms of wanting to entertain us and show them or show us their culture. I learned this the hard way, and actually I'm pretty stiff for a black guy, to be honest with you. I don't have any real dance moves, but I'm pretty stiff. I actually learned this about myself in Poland. I'm pretty stiff. So what happened was there was an event being held for my wife, and I was invited. They said, hey, you have to bring your husband. We want to show him a good time, etc., etc. So what they did was they put on this really nice spread. Like I said, they put out all these cold cuts, a variety of different types of cheese. It was just a really nice spread that they had put on for my wife, more importantly, and I was just a guest. But because I'm an American, they went over the top. I mean, it was above and beyond anything I could actually expect. They had a girl, she was 13 years old. She was singing some Polish songs. They had a DJ there, and believe me, this was not a big party. This group was only probably 12 to 16 people, but they had put on such a spread you couldn't go and help but not want to participate. But you know, in America, you know, when we feel like, you know, the vibe's not right, you know, we tend to put our back on the walls. If we don't, maybe there's a song on that you don't like particularly, we just kind of put our back to the walls and we're trying to wait for that next song to come on where we get to bust out some moves. Well, we didn't have that here in Poland. So they're playing these traditional Polish songs. I know none of them. So I'm listening, I'm trying to find a beat, trying to find a rhythm. But at some point, an hour or two had gone by, I'm getting liquored up. And at some point, a woman grabbed me by both of my arms and she asked me to get up. And I didn't, so, you know, I'm pretty solid, pretty sturdy guy. So I pretty much had planted my ass in the seat and I said, no, I'm not gonna dance to this, especially this song, you know, I'm not gonna dance. Also, there's not that many people dancing. There's like probably two other couples dancing. So this woman took me by both arms and she drugged me across the dance floor while I was still sitting in my seat. And I said, this is the strongest woman I had ever met in my life, because I'm pushing north of 200 pounds. And she had no issue. She picked me up like a sack of potatoes, actually. So I wound up getting up and I actually wound up dancing. I was clinging to her for dear life because I had no moves, I have no rhythm, no skills, especially with dancing to a Polish song. So that's one of the things you must do, especially as a foreigner. You must participate in activities. One of the things you must do also, if you're Polish, is that you must offer your guests something. It could be a glass of water, a cup of tea, a soda, a snack, anything. But if you're Polish, you must offer your guests something. I actually learned this the hard way, and if you know anything about me, I actually teach English. This is actually my job here. So one time I had a guest come in, and she's telling me about how hard of a day she had, how work was difficult. She had a difficult time at the shelter. It was pretty hot. It wasn't sweltering, but it was pretty hot. And so I had my lesson plan ready. You know, I slid it across the table, and at some point she just kind of looked at me. And some seconds had gone by. I didn't know exactly what was happening. I didn't know what to say. She was just pretty just still. And I think maybe she had something going on in her head. Maybe she had a timer going on at the time and I didn't know it. But she eventually asked me, hey, Mike, you have any water around? And I said, yeah, I got water around, sure. And something didn't click in my head. So I said, can I get you some? And she said, yeah, it'd be nice if you could give me some water. And I said, oh my God, how rude. I've been so rude all these times because I've had so many people come to my house and I've never offered them anything. And it seems to be Polish custom where you actually offer up something just out of goodwill. If it's just any little thing, a piece of bread, it's basically what Polish people do. You will always enter a Polish home and they will always offer you something. So I apologize to all my Polish guests because I really didn't know, and maybe I'm just a rude American. So if you're Polish and you go to somebody's house, always offer your guests something. One of the must-dos in Poland is that you must go to the Baltic Sea in the summer. I noticed last year for the first time how important and significant the Baltic Sea is to Polish people. I say this because I was actually able to see this firsthand and how it works. And if you know anything about the Polish Sea and Polish people, well, the Baltic Sea being the Baltic, not Polish Sea. But what's very funny about it culturally is that Polish people, I think, prefer seclusion, and at least the illusion of seclusion, and how they maybe are loners in some aspects of their lives. But when you go to the sea, the first time I went, honestly, when I first entered the sand, I started to walk on the sand. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this Baltic Sea. I heard it's really cold, it's very salty. And when I entered this area where it started to open up, and I saw the sea, my first thing, I looked around. And I didn't know what I was looking at. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And all I saw were windbreakers. And it's something that, if I could describe it to you, is they're basically colorful. It's kind of some strip of nylon. Sometimes they have some graphics or print on them. And I think, as I said, and it's joint. It has 4 pieces of wood attached to it, so you could kind of pitch it into the sand. What's very funny about these windbreakers is that they're actually very low to the ground, and I really don't get it because they don't provide or offer any type of protection or privacy. Because when you walk by, you can basically look and say, "Hey, man, I can see you and your whole family." So this is what's really funny about Polish people. It's just something I didn't understand. So one of the must-dos, if you're a Polish person, when you go to the beach, you must buy a windbreaker. One other thing I noticed in Poland, and if you're a Polish person, when you go to somebody's house and when you enter that house, you must take off those shoes. Why, Mike? I don't know. I think it has to do with maybe making the wife's job a little bit easier. Maybe she doesn't want to clean up all this excessive sand or dirt that you trek inside, but it's something you must do as a Polish person. I've gone to people's homes and they really, I actually get kind of nervous because I'm like, do I have to take off my shoes? And I'm worried if I have a hole in my sock. But most people, when they come to my house, we get into this whole argument. Hey, Mike, you need me to take off my shoes? I mean, not really. I really prefer not to smell your stinky feet. But if you must, it's really, you don't have to. No, Mike, I'd feel better if I took off my shoes. No. So we wind up going back and forth, usually with guests. Sometimes I'm being extreme here, but we wind up going to this whole dialogue about as to why they need to take off their shoes, and why I'm trying to convince them they don't need to. And we just go back and forth for minutes. So it's just back and forth so many times, and I actually just get a good crack out of it because it's something I haven't experienced in America. And maybe I've been rude, and maybe these are just actual customs people engage in. So for anybody out there that I've entered your house with my shoes on, especially here in Poland, I'm really sorry. So if you're living in Poland, you must take off your shoes when entering somebody's house. One of the things you must do also, if you're a Polish person, is to save jars. Why? Why do Polish people save jars, Mike? Because once a year in the summer, when the season is right and all the fruits and vegetables are growing, Polish people love to store up for the winter. They love to store up for these hard times, these extreme conditions. I don't know if this is just a Polish cultural pastime or if this is something they started to do during communism, before the war. I don't know, but if you know anything about Poland, they've had a really, really, really hard history, and they have to get really creative with what they do and how they actually utilize the seasonal food that grows. Polish people, by far and large, are the most resourceful people I've ever met, and really nothing goes to waste. I've had people ask me, Mike, what are you gonna do with those jars? They get kind of nervous and they don't know exactly what you're gonna quite do with them. So I've had people ask me, Mike, what are you gonna do with those jars? I'm gonna throw them away. Whoa, 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 whoa. No, 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 no. Keep those jars, put them to the side. Don't throw them away. You gotta keep those jars. So I've started to notice over time, I have a little pantry that now I just have a bunch of empty jars, and I don't even make pickles. So that's something about Poland that I really noticed. And it's actually something, again, culturally, it's actually fantastic for me because I get to taste homemade compotes, jams, pickles, spiritus, etc. And it's just one of these things you must do in Poland. Save your jars. So those are my 5 must-dos if you're a Polish person. If you want, leave the comments below and see if you disagree or agree with my must-dos. This is part 1. I have more to follow, but these are what came to my mind right now as I'm walking through the park. Until then, Mike in Poland. Cześć.